So just continuing along with these, we've got a number of other icons here and some other features that we can look over. So if I go ahead and just be in UV selection here, select a UV, and I take a look inside here, you'll see that we have options for our soft select. So I can go ahead and move that around. If I want to work on multiple shells at the same time, I can switch to volume, and volume will cover a larger section there. I'm going to turn that off. We have under rotate the ability to go ahead and use things like soft selection as well, but we also have this discrete rotate option. Just going to grab this, Control, right mouse button, and we have options to switch any selections to go to the shell border, to the shell, to an edge loop, UV, edge loop, etc. And when you get used to these things, it's really super fast. You just control and drag, and if you know the direction you're going, for me it's a 45-degree angle, to go ahead and select the shell, it's immediate. So with the discrete rotate, we can choose increments. Oops. And let's go 45. So I can go in 45-degree increments there. Or I can, of course, just go free. There we go. And we also have these guys for rotation, which rotate in 45-degree angles in one direction or the other. We have the ability to flip left and right, up and down. And then we have some of these guys here. So if I go to this one right here, this is the lattice tool. Basically whatever the selection is, so you can make any shape, size of selection. It can be multiple shells even. I grab that whole thing and I can go ahead and move that. I have the brush tool here, which basically is like a soft select but grabs from the center and it only goes within that area. And of course you can prevent yourself from hitting anything else by making sure you just don't select it. And B is just your size. And then we also have this tool right here, which is a selection tool primarily. And this one is basically like your Softimage select islands. So when you go in there, it will automatically select an island, which we call shells in here. We also have this guy right here, which is the shortest path tool. So it's another selection tool. If I just go ahead into it, what it will do is if I select one, hold down Shift, select somewhere else. Let's try that again. There we go. And you'll see that it will try and pick the edges to make the shortest path. We have, if I go ahead and just, actually I just go directly to this one, the tweak tool. And the tweak tool allows you, kind of like the M tool inside of Softimage, you just immediately grab and drag. You don't have to select and then drag, it will just go ahead and grab and drag. It's basically going to select one at a time. And then of course we have shell. We have this unfold and relax tool, which will use whatever selection you have, and it will run the unfold and relax, which exists up here. We have unfold and the relax is actually now called optimize, but if you go into its option box, you'll see the legacy relax mode is there. Now this thing is a slightly different version from what those things are. It does iterations as you drag across, so it will just kind of work like that, and you can use them back and forth. It's kind of like a built-in undo. You can slide back and forth, but as soon as you let go, it's been done, and anything you do after that can't go backwards unless you undo it. So just be careful with that. And of course, we are in the wrong tool. There we go. We have the ability to cut apart these pieces. Actually, I'm just going to go in edge mode here. Go ahead and grab these edges. going to use the scissors here. So that's what these are supposed to be, some scissors. We'll go ahead and cut this. And again, if you have something on that will allow you to envision the borders, like I've got in here, you can see the cut edge right there, and that means that, or do something like, let's say the shell. And there you go. The one beside it right here is basically something that will go ahead and cut it into many pieces. So if I were to grab, let's go actually there, face mode, select these, and grab that. You see it's cut every single edge on that, but it's automatically selected the UVs. It'll allow you to go ahead and move that group all separated. We have our sew and our move and sew. So what are these guys? Let's just do that. I'll grab this, grab its shell. If I grab these edges, I'm going to go ahead and sew them, which means they're going to meet in the middle. Or I can go and do a move and sew, in which one shell will go to meet the other one and then sew them together. Then we have some layout tools quickly here. So actually I'll just break that off. And warp that guy. And we'll go ahead and not getting the movement really visible here. It's just what it's supposed to do is kind of align to the grid. And then we have this guy, which is supposed to optimize the use of texture space. So I'm just going to go ahead and here we'll go and stitch this guy back in. Move and sew. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it to lay these guys out better. So grab these guys, lay them out a little bit better, perhaps throw a quick unfold on that, which will unfold it. And of course, we can then tell it to optimize the usage of the space. So let's just make it unoptimal. And then tell it to optimize, so it's going to try and even that stuff out, fix that stuff up. In addition, we also have the ability to align any given set of UVs, so align to the rightmost or leftmost, bottommost, and topmost, in order to get those all in line. If we hold down Shift and right click, we will have a bunch of context sensitive options. So I've got unfold UVs, smooth UVs, etc. Select his face, Shift, different context. So we got the tweak and create UV shell. The create UV shell, of course, if we grab this thing, Shift, create UV cell, and let's go to UVs, which we can move. W, I can move that shell off. You notice it's only cut around the edges that I want, not the entire thing, which is quite different from this guy. So depending on what you select, Shift right click will change what it offers you as options while you're maneuvering in this space. And in the menu, so we mentioned the unfold options and the unfold and relax options together. Well, the unfold actually comes in two flavors right now. We've got the unfold 3D, which is a newer algorithm. Let's grab it as UVs, sorry. And what it will do is it'll try and lay it out in the best way possible and try and reshape, reform this in some way to give you a better look. And we have the legacy version. Legacy version has just a lot more options, so a lot more different controls that you can take advantage of here. And how this guy works, you have to be fairly respectful to this particular tool. It can get away from you fairly quickly. If I go ahead and go to UVs, I'm going to turn off my VT cool tool. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and do an unfold on this. So right now what we have here is the option to pin the UV border, meaning that the border will not move, or we can pin UVs by selection, so pin the selected ones or pin the unselected ones. Right now I want to pin the unselected ones, meaning anything that's not currently selected will stay where it is. And I'm not providing any specific constraints. It's going to do an iteration, so it's going to do 5,000 versions of this and move within a 0.001 value each time that it does this, so smaller and smaller increments. So I'm going to go ahead and press that. Of course, I'm getting not much out of this. Now, this is because what I have is actually a cylinder, so let's just switch to something that's not a cylinder. Something like this guy. And if I go ahead and do that again, you'll see that the unfold tool has gone ahead and tried to figure out what to do with that shape. It's not really sure what to do with that shape. This is where I say it's a little bit unpredictable as to what it does unless you're very firm with it. So here I'm going to go ahead and grab these corners. I'm going to tell it to pin the selected ones instead of the unselected ones. I'll go ahead and apply that to it. You notice that these will stay where they are, and it will try and even out the distortion across the surface. Now let's just turn on the visible distortion here. We'll apply that, and you can see what's happened. It's basically tried to shift this in any way that it can to try and figure it out. Now I'm going to go ahead and pin the unselected, and this time instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with vertical constraint, meaning that all the movements that it does will only happen up and down. So let's move them only up and down. And now I'm going to do horizontal separately, and it shifted all of those guys. So the end result is something a little bit more overall controlled versus the none, which does this and compresses the whole thing. Now if we go with the traditional unfold 3D, you can see that the algorithm is a little bit better at trying to figure this out, all this spacing, although it does get a little bit warped in here, a little bit wobbly. Sometimes you can try them more than once and see what happens. So that didn't quite work out as well as I would have liked. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the legacy one afterwards, and I will do a vertical, horizontal, and see if that improves it. And it's evened this stuff out, but it hasn't really improved in this area. And this is a hard thing to do with just one object. It's gonna have some warping in it, regardless of what you do with it, unless you start breaking it into pieces, which is usually the better option. Now additionally with this legacy one is that you have weighting with regards to a local versus a global solver, and when you switch to the global solver, it gives you options to say respect mainly the face area or respect mainly the edge length. So I'm going to go back and select these guys. Tell it to respect mainly face area, and you see what it's done here is it's tried to re-optimize that in a better way, and it's not necessarily been successful. We have to remember that the history on this can impact the way this is visualized, so I'm just going to delete the history to give it a better idea of what's actually going on. So that's actually not too bad. And I can try it to respect edge length instead. And here the distortion is obviously changed, but now I'm getting a lot of actual overlap, which is not desirable. So you can try and find in-betweens, happy mediums. Sometimes they do interesting things. You can go in between a global and local solver, try and balance these things out in order to get something that works well for you. But again, ultimately what you want to do is cut this into more pieces in order to get a better end result. So if I were to do that here, something like that, I'm going to cut those guys, grab the whole set. I'll go with the new one. Delete the history on that. How about I stitch these guys together? That, and you can see I've got a better overall distortion for all of that.